Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why so many people live in quiet pain? In a world overflowing with noise, endless distractions, and temptations that flash across every screen, many battles go unnoticed. Some are whispered in prayer, some are confessed at kitchen tables, but there are others that remain hidden, locked away in silence. One of the most deeply personal struggles, especially among men, is the battle with lust and self-gratification. It's a battle that rarely makes its way into public conversation, yet it quietly shapes lives behind closed doors. Today, I'm not here to speak with shame, I'm here to speak with truth. I'm not bringing condemnation, I'm bringing conviction. Because men often carry this illusion that what happens in secret will stay in secret. That the choices made when no one is watching somehow have no lasting impact on their character, their relationships, or the legacy they're building. But this, my friends, is one of life's greatest lies. The truth is sobering. Your private life is never truly private. It's the silent workshop where your thoughts are shaped, your desires are molded, and where the man you become is slowly being carved. Long before anyone else sees the fruits of your life, the roots are already deep, formed in the silence of your daily decisions. I've sat across from men of influence, men with power, men with families, men with hard-won wisdom and painful regrets. And when they speak of their younger years, do you know what brings tears to their eyes? It's not what was done to them. It's not the external hardships. It's the things they chose in secret. They mourn the time spent nurturing hidden habits like masturbation, born from lust, loneliness, boredom, or pain. Each time they gave in, they unknowingly fed something within them, a hunger that would later refuse to be silenced. What felt small in the moment grew into a giant. It crept into their marriages, dulled their passions, and forced them to live double lives, one face for the world, another behind locked doors. What we often fail to realize is that sin, when left unchecked in private, seeps quietly into the public corners of our lives. It changes how we see people, how we lead, how we love our spouses, how we show up for the things that really matter. We can pretend we've got our secret indulgences under control, but the hard truth is, those indulgences are controlling us. You cannot continuously feed the flesh in the dark and expect your spirit to shine in the light. You cannot cultivate lust in secrecy and expect love to flourish openly. And this is exactly where many men find themselves today, trapped in silent despair, convinced it's too late to change, too late to rebuild. But let me tell you, this is a lie. And if you listen to the tears of older men, you will hear a hard-won truth. It is never too late to build a life of integrity. Yes, your choices matter. Yes, time has passed, but today is not gone. Today is yours to reclaim. The story of the man you are becoming is still being written, with the decisions you make right now. Do not let yesterday's shame chain you from today's freedom. I have known men who spent decades hiding their struggles, fearing exposure, fearing judgment, but what they were really longing for, what all of us long for, is peace. Not just peace as an idea, but peace as a living experience, a soul at rest, a heart undivided, a life that doesn't require a mask. That kind of peace begins when you stop separating who you are in public from who you are in private. It begins when you decide to live as one whole man, a man of honor, a man of discipline, a man who can stand tall not because he's perfect, but because he's honest. So I urge you, with compassion, not with condemnation, please, do not believe the lie that your private battles don't matter. They matter more than you can possibly imagine. What you choose to do when no one is watching, that's the purest measure of the man you are. Your legacy will not be built on how well you performed for others. It will be built on how faithfully you walked in truth when it was just you and God. We live in a culture that sells pleasure like candy, marketed in every advertisement, whispered in every dark corner of the internet. Men are told that chasing pleasure is natural, healthy, even necessary. But let me tell you something that many old men have learned too late. Pleasure is not your purpose. It was never meant to be your compass. Pleasure is supposed to flow from purpose, not replace it. When a man lives only to satisfy his flesh, he begins to hollow out his soul. The body may feel satisfied for a fleeting moment, but the soul is left emptier, hungrier, lonelier. Many men turn to masturbation not just from lust, but from boredom, restlessness, loneliness, or unresolved pain. It becomes a quiet ritual, a coping mechanism, a substitute for connection, purpose, and calling. But those moments of escape never satisfy the deeper hunger, they only deepen the ache. The real tragedy isn't that men struggle, the tragedy is when they stop fighting. They make peace with the habit that slowly kills their passion, their energy, and their spiritual clarity. They forget that they were made for something greater than self-indulgence. They were made for truth, for love, for discipline, for mission. And here's a secret that many don't realize until they've spent decades looking back. What you feed will grow. That's not just biology, it's the law of the heart. If you feed lust, it will grow. If you feed discipline, it will grow. If you feed fantasy, it will soon feel stronger than your desire for real life. A man who repeatedly gives himself over to self-gratification, especially when fueled by pornography, is rewiring his mind to crave intimacy without effort, pleasure without responsibility, satisfaction without sacrifice. But that is a counterfeit life. It is beneath your dignity. Every time you indulge without thought, you are not just having a passing moment, you are forging a path in your heart. And the more you walk that path, the harder it becomes to choose another. Older men will tell you, they wish they had drawn the line sooner. Because once something takes root, it takes courage, time, and humility to pull it out. But hear me, it can be pulled out. You are not powerless, you are not stuck, but you must be honest with yourself and with God. Stop pretending that the small won't become big. Stop pretending that what's private won't one day affect what's public. The small choices you make, day after day, are building your future. The question is, what kind of future is it? Do not feed what will grow into chains. Feed what will grow into strength. Feed discipline. Feed truth. Feed connection with people and with God. And you may find, to your own surprise, that peace will start to grow inside you. Because the man who lives for purpose will always outlast the man who lives for pleasure. And that man will not just leave behind moments, he will leave behind a legacy. There's a deep longing in every man, to be seen, to be known, to be loved, not for the mask he wears, but for who he truly is. We were created for intimacy, not just physical, but emotional, spiritual, relational. But when a man turns inward and tries to satisfy these longings in isolation, through fantasy, through self-gratification, through stolen moments in the dark, he trades what's real for what's easy. He numbs the pain instead of healing it. And that isolation eventually becomes a prison. You see, real intimacy cannot grow in secrecy. It cannot thrive in the shadows. Real intimacy requires honesty. It requires courage. It demands that we open ourselves to others and to God, and receive a kind of love that transforms, not just temporarily stimulates. Yet many men settle for a counterfeit intimacy, a quiet moment alone, a glowing screen, a quick escape. It demands nothing but promises everything. And when it's over, it leaves you emptier than before. Why? Because what we truly crave was never designed to be found in isolation. We were made to love and to be loved in trust, in sacrifice, in real presence. And this is where many men get stuck. They whisper to themselves, "It's too late for me." But is it really? Or is that just another lie we've been sold? We've just faced a hard truth together, that many men live trapped in silent battles, believing they can never break free. And it's here, in this very place of despair, where another dangerous lie begins to whisper. Shame starts to speak, not loudly, but persistently. It tells men, over and over, that they are too broken, too far gone, too stained to ever walk in the light again. Shame says they've struggled for too long, hidden too much, failed too often. But let me tell you, as clearly as I can, shame is a liar. It speaks in the voice of fear, but it is not the voice of truth. The truth, my friend, is this: no matter how long you've battled, no matter how many times you've stumbled, freedom is still possible. The grace of God does not have an expiration date. His mercy is not on a timer, counting down against you. His mercy is here, it's now, and it's for you. You are not defined by your weakest moment. You are not your addiction. You are not your shame. You are not what happened in the dark. You are who you choose to become when you step into the light. But here's something you cannot forget. You cannot walk in freedom while you live in silence. The first step is not perfection, it's honesty. It's the courage to confess your need, to ask for help, to invite light into the places you've desperately tried to keep hidden. That is where change begins. That is where healing takes root. Every older man I've ever met wishes he had understood this sooner. Time moves fast. Youth does not last forever. Strength fades, and the habits you choose today will shape the man you wake up to tomorrow. Don't wait until your body is worn out and your heart is heavy with regret to finally decide that change matters. Don't wait until the people who needed your love have grown tired of waiting. Don't wait until your secret costs you more than you ever imagined. The clock is ticking, but not to scare you. It's ticking to remind you that this moment still belongs to you. Today can still be the day you begin again. Not the day you become perfect, but the day you become honest. Not the day you conquer every battle, but the day you refuse to surrender to the same old lie. You can start again. The man who chooses truth over secrecy, connection over isolation, and courage over shame, that man will walk in freedom. That man will live with peace. That man will leave behind a legacy that is worth remembering. But there's a quiet message many men have lived by, even if they've never said it aloud. If it feels good, it must be right. That silent belief has quietly shaped lives and led many down paths they deeply regret. Today's world sells pleasure as if it's the ultimate goal. But pleasure was never meant to be your purpose. Purpose is deeper. Purpose is rooted in calling, in obedience, in discipline. Pleasure may walk alongside purpose, but when it becomes your destination, you will find yourself chasing satisfaction and missing peace. Many men don't turn to masturbation because they are wicked. They turn to it because they are empty. They are tired. They are longing. They are desperate for relief. Even if it's just for a moment. It seems to work, it distracts. It numbs. It soothes. But after the moment fades, there's only silence. There's guilt. There's that same lingering ache. Why? Because no fleeting pleasure can heal a heart that's starving for purpose. You were not created to be a servant to your appetites. You were made to walk in strength, in discipline, in love. You were made to give, not just to consume. And here's a truth every man eventually has to face: what you feed will grow. It's not just a law of nature, it's a law of the soul. If you keep feeding lust, lust will grow. If you keep feeding fantasy, your desire for real life will wither. Every time you surrender to that habit, you make it harder to walk away. You might believe you're in control. You might convince yourself it's just sometimes. But habits built in secret have a way of taking root, deep in the heart. And one day, you wake up and realize, it's not something you occasionally do. It's who you've become. But hear me, you were not made for addiction. You were made for intimacy. Not the false intimacy of a screen. Not the counterfeit closeness of secrecy. Real intimacy. The kind that's built in connection, in real, honest, vulnerable relationships. That is what every man truly longs for. Deep down, we all want to be seen, not just stimulated. We want to be known, not just satisfied. We want to be loved, not just relieved. Masturbation, especially when driven by pornography and fantasy, offers a false version of that. It promises connection, but delivers isolation. It mimics intimacy, but leaves us lonelier than before. And this is where shame tightens its grip. It tells you that because you struggle, you're broken. Because you've fallen, you're disqualified. Because you've failed repeatedly, you're beyond help. But shame is lying to you. It sounds convincing because it knows your past. But shame cannot touch your future. The truth is that freedom is still available. Redemption is still within reach. You are not your sin. You are not your lowest moment. You are not your secret. You are someone deeply loved by a God who already knows and still calls you, not to condemn you, but to restore you. You don't have to spend your life divided between the man you pretend to be and the man you really are. You can live free. You can walk in truth. But you must decide to stop feeding the lie and start fighting for what is real. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. No man, reaching the end of his life, ever says, "I wish I had stayed in the shadows longer." But many have whispered with regret, "I wish I had stepped into the light sooner." There comes a point in every man's life when he has to stop and ask himself, what am I really living for? And if we're honest, many of us are living for comfort, for escape, For pleasure, we work hard, we carry burdens, we feel the weight of stress, and we reach for something to ease it. For many, that becomes a quiet, hidden habit. Masturbation becomes more than a routine of the body, it becomes a habit of the heart. A way to cope, a way to feel, a way to briefly forget. But remember, pleasure is not the same as purpose. It never was, it never will be. Purpose is what gets you out of bed. Purpose is what carries you through suffering and sacrifice. Pleasure may walk alongside purpose, but when pleasure becomes your pursuit, you will always be left empty. That kind of satisfaction fades quickly. It leaves you chasing the next moment. Before long, you find yourself pursuing a feeling instead of building a life. That is not freedom, that is slavery. And here's the hard truth that gets heavier with every passing year: what you feed grows. You can't keep feeding lust and expect purity to thrive. You can't keep sowing into secret indulgence and expect to harvest peace. The more you say yes to that urge, the more it demands. It begins as curiosity, then it becomes comfort, then it becomes a craving. Eventually, it becomes a chain. Not all at once, quietly, gradually. That's how it works. The enemy doesn't come loudly. He doesn't scare you. He lulls you. He convinces you it's no big deal. He whispers, everyone does it, but no one talks about what it steals. No one tells you about the numbness, the disconnection, the growing inability to experience real intimacy. Because real intimacy cannot be found in isolation. The screen cannot love you. The fantasy does not know you. You were not made for artificial connection. You were made to be seen. You were made to be known. To love and to be loved. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, fully. And every time you turn to self-gratification, you are teaching your heart to settle for a counterfeit version of what it was created to crave. This is where shame strikes hardest. Once the pattern is set, guilt begins to pile up. Shame tells you it's too late, that you've gone too far, that you can't change now, that if people really knew, they would walk away. Shame begins to wrap itself around your identity until you can no longer tell the difference between who you are and what you've done. But listen carefully. Shame is a liar. It uses your past to rob you of your future. It keeps you silent when you should speak. It keeps you hidden when you were born to live free. You are not what you've done. You are who God still calls you to be. And you can start again, today. We've just seen that the first step toward freedom is honesty, a willingness to face the truth and stop feeding the lie. But knowing this is not enough. Freedom only comes when you act, not tomorrow. Not after, one more time. Not when life feels easier or when the timing seems right. The uncomfortable truth is this: time is short. The opportunities you hold in your hands right now, today, will not last forever. The longer you wait, the deeper the roots grow. The longer you stay silent, the stronger the chains become. But even the deepest roots can be pulled out by grace. Even the heaviest chains can be broken by truth. The tragedy is that too many men wait until rock bottom. They wait until their secrets have already cost them something precious: marriages, families, peace, purpose. But why wait until you've lost what you love? Why wait for perfect conditions that may never come? Why wait for a disaster to wake you up? Choose freedom now. Choose purpose now. Choose honesty now. Because when you do, you won't just change a habit, you will change your future. And that is worth everything. There's a path many men walk, quietly, secretly, and often completely alone. It's not a road paved by loud rebellion. No, it's built by small compromises, silent surrenders, private indulgences that seem harmless at first. At the beginning, it feels normal, even natural. The world says it's fine. The world tells you there's no harm in it. But the men who have walked that road further, the ones who now speak from years of regret, will tell you a different story. They'll tell you that chasing pleasure as your life's goal is a trap because pleasure was never meant to lead you. Pleasure was meant to follow purpose, not to replace it. You were not made for fleeting escapes. You were made for meaning. But when we train ourselves to reach for comfort every time we're stressed, bored, lonely, or in pain, especially through the habit of masturbation, we quietly trade our mission for mediocrity. We start feeding a desire that never truly gets full. It always comes back for more. And here's the simple but sobering truth: what you feed grows. This isn't just about your body, it's about your spirit. your character, your legacy. Feed your impulses, and they will grow stronger. Feed your discipline, and it will grow too. What seems small today can quietly take over tomorrow. The real danger isn't just in the act, it's in what the act does to everything else. Over time, the craving for momentary release begins to overshadow the longing for real connection. And here's the painful reality: intimacy is never found in isolation. Screens and fantasies offer quick satisfaction, but they leave your soul emptier than before. Real intimacy requires vulnerability. It requires being present. It takes patience. And masturbation can never offer that. It slowly trains your heart to expect something for nothing, to demand without giving, to take without investing. And that expectation will not stay hidden. It will follow you into every relationship you build. There's something few men talk about until it's too late. Your private life shapes your public legacy. You can pretend that no one sees. You can tell yourself it's just a secret. But the habits you build in private will always bear fruit in public. They shape your thoughts, your emotions, your energy, your confidence, your leadership, your capacity to love. When you live a divided life, a public image and a hidden struggle, you will never know true peace. A man with a split soul cannot lead well, cannot love deeply, and cannot live fully. And when the damage begins to show, that's when shame rushes in. Shame whispers that you've gone too far, that you're too deep in now, that if anyone knew, they would walk away. But hear me, that voice is not from God. Shame is a liar. It wants to keep you hidden, isolated, afraid. It wants you to believe that your struggle disqualifies you from freedom. But grace is still calling you into the light, not because you've earned it, not because you've conquered everything, simply because you are loved. The battle does not disqualify you. Giving up does. There are men much older than you who will tell you, sometimes with tears in their eyes, that they don't cry because they sinned. They cry because they stayed stuck for far too long. They will tell you what I am telling you now: time is short. Every day you spend trapped in cycles of shame and secrecy is a day you could have lived in freedom. One day, the chance to change will be gone. Your time, your strength, your relationships, none of them will last forever. But today, right now, this moment is still yours. Don't wait for the disaster to wake you up. Wake up now. You don't need to be perfect to start. You don't need to have all the answers. What you need is the courage to begin. What you need is to be willing. What you need is to be honest. What you need is to be humble. You can make the decision today to stop feeding what's destroying you and start building what truly matters. And when you do, you will discover something powerful. You were never meant to live in chains. You were created to walk in freedom. That is the life worth living. And that life can begin right now. So let's choose to walk away from counterfeit comforts. Let's walk into true freedom. Not in secrecy, not in shame, but fully, boldly, in the light. Because when you know better, you can live better. And when you live better, you will leave behind a legacy, not one that burdens the next generation, but one that blesses them. Your story doesn't have to end in hiding. It can begin, right now, in the light.